Welcome to the Heen View, a podcast series which interviews a range of local sports club representatives and local club identities during the COVID-19 shutdown period. We find out how these clubs are functioning during the current health crisis, which has seen winter sports postponed. I'm Mark Heen, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Mark Stone. Welcome, Stoney.
Yeah, thanks, Marco. And it is great to have Dean and someone it's a really interesting topic for me because someone who's had a massive interest in people and what people do and why they do what they do. We've got a really good guest today who can talk about all the loves that we have, sport and people, which is a great thing, Hannah.
It certainly is. And, we have got a great guest on the line. And one of the things that we're looking at today is the mental wellness side of a local sports club with a renowned fitness coach. He's also a corporate health guru and also a performance coach. This man wears many hats and he has many talents. He's the director and performance coach of Melbourne Corporate Health. And over the football pre-season was installed as the head of fitness and is the wellbeing manager of the Ocean Grove Football Club. He is a father of three. Last summer, he completed a 3-week intensive bronze medallion course where he became a fully accredited Nipper Surf Club coach and a qualified surf lifesaver. He's an active parent, and he's an active parent of the Ocean Grove Cobras Junior Football Club, where he's developed a training footy fit program video kit for young Cobra footy participants. So we'll be talking about that. He's the son-in-law of Mick Malthouse, who has coached a VFL AFL record of 718 games, and he is a 3-time premiership AFL coach, Malthouse, and also a premiership player with Richmond in 1980. He is the husband of Christy Malthouse, a former Channel 10 sports presenter, journalist and AFL television boundary rider. We welcome to the show and to the Heen View, Dean Casamento.
Thanks, boys. Lovely to be here. Thanks, Mark.
That's okay, Dean, and thank you for joining us on the podcast. Very interesting to get you at this time of our lives because of what's happening. And one big part of your business is obviously connecting with clients and people that are in your community and your workspaces through, your online visuals through Zoom. And one of the first questions that I have to ask today, particularly as you've been installed as the Ocean Grove Football Netball Club mental wellbeing manager and also the fitness coach of the football side, is that how are you connecting a lot with the players? Obviously, you might be using Zoom and all that, but what are you finding out about the players? How are they adapting to structures, not structures now, because they're not coming to training on Tuesdays and Thursday nights because of the shutdown that we're in. How are you finding that with the players? That how self-motivated are the players and using these other online forums like Zoom?
Yeah, good question, Mark. So look, to be honest, two weeks ago, we finished our pilot of a program designed by former St Kilda performance manager, Simon Carney. The program is known as Readiness. And basically what Readiness, this is one thing that we're doing. What Readiness does is assesses the players live each day over 3 sort of 30 to 45 second online surveys where we get a bit of a snapshot at their current physical, mental and emotional well-being. That finished up, the trial period finished up 2 weeks ago. We are rolling that back out over the next 2 weeks where that'll be sort of live throughout the entirety of 2020. But I suppose, like all my corporate clients and with the football club as well, we have moved into obviously into the online space, and we've looked at ways in which we can maintain that sense of community, that strong sense of support, and obviously, I suppose, a platform where we can create structure, develop that sense of mateship and still and obviously that sense of competition as well. And obviously we have been doing that, utilizing that quite well through social media and through obviously the Zoom platform. And not to say that it actually has, it has had some of its challenges too. Don't get me wrong, especially in regards to engagement, because we haven't got that face-to-face contact with the boys.
Dean, I've been involved with footy a long time now, and just to see a program like this, I have a massive interest, as I said, in people. This is a really big undertaking by the Ocean Grove Footy Club because there wouldn't be many programs, I would think, out there in the marketplace that deal I know we've been put in a position because of the pandemic, but wouldn't be many clubs out there that would put a program together which is on and off the field, as well as the people themselves, but their performance. So this is one of a kind. So I reckon, well done to you. Do you see it as you're a bit of a pioneer in this space?
Yeah. Well, when I first spoke to Ocean Grove after Pete Davey sort of approached me through a contact through the club. So Pete Davey is obviously the current senior coach, and I spoke to him about my approach and about how we can look at creating, not necessarily looking at footy just as a vehicle for young men to kick an oval ball and ladies to, shoot a round ball, but a platform to build self-beliefs and self-confidence. And, really a vehicle where they can be their very best versions of themselves. And they did mention, nothing really like this has been done before. And a lot of it's been left up to me to be able to tweak and develop and really design the program based on what I know that works well from a people and culture perspective. Even speaking to some of the clubs, or not necessarily speaking to them one-to-one, but hearing of some of the GFL clubs, a lot of them actually haven't got anything going on at the moment. To be honest, like I sort of scratch my head. I'm going, that I think there's a huge responsibility from the club's perspective, to maintain that, that real strong community feel. And I think this creates just a huge opportunity obviously with COVID-19 and with the social distancing. I think, we can make a lot of, a lot out of, such a challenging situation. And I think we're doing the very best thing for the players and for the community. That's for sure. Yeah.
Take me back to your playing days in some ways, but more not just from the playing side, but, maybe things like video edits and those sorts of things. I mean, I was advised and I'm reliably informed that you did play a pretty high level of under 18s football with the TAC Cup and Sandringham Dragons.
Yep.
What's the situation there when you were sort of in your football development and your career, when you were going from juniors to senior pathway? Were you involved a lot with the editing side? I mean, even as a step that you've grown with your corporate health business, that you would be doing videos even before this COVID shutdown. What was sort of, when in your playing days and when you were going into the senior transition, were you watching many videos, or was there much footage of you playing, or how you could improve as a player?
No, not at all. No, a lot of the I suppose the editing and all the videos that I sort of do today is literally, come off the back of me looking at ways in which I can, effectively influence. And so, back if I'm answering your question right, no, Mark, there's no reflection. There was nothing to do with any video editing or anything like that at all. No.
So even back then, that was one of the things that we've just seen a huge, undertaking in the last, period of time. But, the way coaches and, obviously through AFL Barwon, when they use, Red Onion Creative as an example, you can go and watch the film edit or watch, on the AFL Barwon TV channel, that there is that opportunity to watch, games and the vision of all games. And it's something that we haven't had. The cameras are set up on the wing, Mark Stone, and they're actually taking vision of the whole game in the last couple of seasons. So it's amazing how it's all developed, I suppose. Even before this shutdown period, that you have so much access to local vision, even at a local level, which is really important to work and study on your opposition.
Yeah, and look, back then, this was back, I played under Ray Jordan. I'm not sure whether you remember Slug Jordan from Richmond, and I played under him for 3 years, and about as much of the feedback that I used to get from a playing perspective was he used to give me a handwritten note if he was feeling good, which I loved him as a coach, but he used to give me a handwritten note about the things that I was doing well and the things that I can improve on. But the evolution of technology is it's significantly changed. And I suppose with me, even with we'll probably get to it, but even with the Cobra's, Footy Fit program, for me, Mark, I'm consistently looking for ways in which, I can add as much value to any community that I'm with, whether it's the Grubbers, whether it's the Cobras, whether it's the Ocean Grove Surf Lifesaving Club, and obviously whether it's my corporate clients, throughout Melbourne, Victoria, and Australia.
Dean, just curiosity for me, and I'll take you a bit back. When was the point in your life that you said that the welfare and I suppose, the mind space of a player as is important as the physical aspects of them playing the game? Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about mind and body, and about that at this level. And I think it's fantastic, as I said before, that the ability to be able to sort of say, it's a bit of a balance here, physical, mental. If you can get one right, get the other right, then you can have the best performance. At what stage of your life did you come to a point where you thought, this is the program, this is the direction I'm going to take?
How deep, Stoney, do you want me to go with this?
No, just touch the surface.
Touch the surface. So, 2010, line in the sand moment.
Yeah.
Just turned 30. Thought I was traveling pretty well as a young father.
Yeah.
Okay as a businessman. Just bought a new house at Nick Malthouse's place, my father-in-law's.
Yeah.
And he sat me down. This was 11 years ago. He sat me down and it was a line in the sand moment. I thought that everything was going really well, but I was burning into both ends, Mark. I was throwing myself into physical fitness. I was as fit as you could possibly get. This is after even post-football, being sort of 7 years out of the game. And mentally and emotionally, I was, if I use the word, I was cooked. I was succumbed to depression, anxiety, given many labels, Mark. And I wasn't consciously aware of the impact that my thoughts, feelings, and emotions were having on others. And it took a really amazing conversation with Mick. I remember that one of the last sentences he said to me in that conversation was, "The apple either falls by the tree or rolls away." And he said, "Which one are you?" And so basically the way I interpreted that is, am I going to continue to be my past self mentally and emotionally, or am I going to start recreating myself from the inside out? And Stoney, so that would have been 2010. That was a line in the sand moment for me where I decided that it's not the physical well-being that's going to make all the difference in my personal life, professional life, and the lives of players, families, and communities. It's playing the game of life. It's playing a game of football on the inside out. And that's where, if you ask me, the real line in the sand moment, pivotal point, that was it. Absolutely.
That's a really powerful statement that you've come out with there, Dean, and we really appreciate your answer there. And it was a good question too, Mark Stone. But one thing that really intrigues me about that is with you and how you use your experiences, because to me, when I see you on the field and helping the Grubbers and, seeing the pre-season, I think, how's this guy not playing? He looks so amazingly fit and all that. And one of the things that I'm interested to get your sort of key messaging, because we're in this COVID-19 period, is that if you are getting a player that's close to 30 or a little bit over the 30, I mean, what are your sort of conversations with them about sort of maybe prolonging their career if they are in a situation where they say, right, I'm going to help you get an extra year or two out of your career because I know that your body's capable of it. And, one of the things that I've learned from you is that even just doing the park run, it's the mind taking over the body. And, had an injury in the last 6 months, which was the dreaded shin splints. And I just kept on thinking, I've just got to get through this little hurdle or whatever and just get through that. What do you talk to players about if they're approaching sort of the crossroads of their career and what they do to get a few more years out?
Well, if we look at it logically and rationally, one thing that's from what history tells us is that whether it's all in the BFL or whether it's just Ocean Grove Football Club, what we decided to do is create a systemic, structural approach to the pre-season training. So everything is structured, everything is systemic, everything is progressively overloaded. So when we look at some of these older players, and we actually, how young our list is, so it's actually, there's not many of them these days, especially at the season 220. But we obviously use a lot of the methodology from the AFL to progressively overload these boys in a safe and effective manner, so they are getting the most out of their bodies. And then you've probably seen, Mark, I'm not sure whether you've come and sat in any of our sessions, you know, simple things like mindfulness meditation, simple things like progressive muscle relaxation, simple things like self-reflection, simple things like having tough conversations that we had through our football camp, that I have had after numerous training sessions around lessons that I've learned through life that allow them to connect both their mind and body and mind together, has been a consistent theme since they put me on board when it was November 2019. You know, so it's the logical, rational side of smart periodization and planning, fitness testing, and the right protocols put in place, which we still have in place now. They're just doing it individually, plus maintaining time for self-reflection, maintaining time to connect with emotions and feelings, because we know it is the mind that speeds up healing, right? It is the mind that controls the body, not the other way around. So if we maintain a reactive mind, which we've been seeing a lot, obviously, especially over the last 5 or 6 weeks, you know, you're seeing how that influences behavior, this reactivity. The mind is designed for one thing only. It's designed to search for threat, right? Search for threat even when there's no threat there, right? That's all. It's just trying to put out spot fires, and it likes keeping things exactly the same. So for me, it's about getting the boys to realize, you know, that there are ways in which you can settle the mind. And when you settle the mind, you can settle the body. You can move through soft tissue injuries a hell of a lot easier. Plus, obviously, all the other logical stuff that we put in place in regards to rehab. You know, you've seen some of the stuff we do before training and the stuff that we do after training. Even when we played our couple of pracky matches, who do we play against? Bacchus Marsh.
You played against Bacchus Marsh. You had some Dean Laidley. There was a game simulation with Maribyrnong Park as well.
Yeah, so we had Maribyrnong and we had Bacchus Marsh. And if you saw the way that our boys prepared for these game simulation pracky matches, a lot different than what you'd experience generally within the BFL, even though those two sides we played against are at a really good standard. So it's all these little things that help our sort of more senior players, you know, develop that sense of confidence, not only within their bodies, but obviously within their minds.
You know, the last one from me is that I'm just curious about, because I love it. I think it's fantastic for a program that can go for a young fella to even the mature player. What's the earliest age you think you can start working with a young player that can take the mental side as well as the physical aspect of balancing both to get the best possible performance?
Oh, I think there's no real age limit there, Mark, because, you know, as each year progresses beyond the age of 8, things get a little harder. We become a little bit more hardwired in our thinking.
Yeah.
So I truly believe that the sooner that we can get these young boys and girls connecting with their thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and, you know, to be able to then incorporate some of the things that they'll eventually do in their adulthood, the quicker we do that, obviously the better. I don't think there's any real age on it, to be honest, if that makes sense.
Yep.
One of the things that I was amazed about with the Ocean Grove Football Club pre-season was it was so organised, and obviously Pete Davey has got to take some of the credit for that. You know, when he came on board, he was very organised from when the pre-season started to when the allotted pre-season was supposedly going to finish. And obviously we were in this sort of unknown territory at the moment. Everything was all organised, you know, with the game simulation, your camp, and all those different activities. Can you take us a little bit into the inner sanctum here, where, from what I understand, that even on days like Boxing Day over the Christmas period, if you were doing a type of you'll be able to specify on it, like a type of run, that players could just log into some sort of GPS system and that they could put their times in. And then there was a real sort of competition that, you know, if your captain was outside the top 10, you'd want to get him back in, or he'd have to push himself. And then obviously some of those things that you talk about on the camp with the meditation as well, you know, just some of those fact-finding missions. You also had a tour around Ocean Grove where I think you were doing some amazing race as well. So just, are you able to just specify on some of those things that we just mentioned?
Yeah, so all the boys are, so in regards to I suppose the first question around their training and their running conditioning, even to this point today, All the boys know their specific training zones that they should be running in to maximise their effective use of time training. So yeah, the boys know, and this has been the constant. At the moment, we're 5 weeks into our current challenge, where each of our senior leadership team members have each been allocated a player, a group of 10 players, and basically they're all competing for points. And a minute exercise is 1 point, and or a minute ran is 1 point. And basically, what happens is they're all working within specific training zones based on their past fitness tests. So, and it's all been ranked. Each of the teams are all ranked. So this creates a real good sense of obviously a lot of banter, and naturally maintain that sort of competitive element. Obviously, all given that we're not playing. In regards to, I wasn't actually there, Mark, and for the amazing race. I did the conditioning at the start with the group, and we did that was post, I think, Maribyrnong game. That was run by the girls as well, the netball club. So I can't really give a huge amount of insight into that. But what, I suppose, what the real drive around that is maintain that sense of, I suppose, that strong sense of connectivity between the football and the netball club, which is something that both Pete, myself, Pete Smith, obviously the board, it's just very much front of mind for us. And I think there has been a bit of a disconnect over the years, similar to the Grubbers and the Cobras. And this has been something that we've really wanted to, I suppose, start to really build a bridge there. And even doing a couple of the boot camps and lots of stuff on the beach. Some of our fun sessions with the netball girls, I think we got outnumbered. I think it was like 40 of them and 25 or 26 of us. But it's been really good feedback. And then into the camp, Mark, we had 2 days sort of out past Anglesey. And I suppose one of the bigger sessions there that we had was about 2 hours, where we had what's called a general opening up session, where I said to Pete Davey, I said, fundamentally, for us to truly succeed as a team and to really move beyond what some of these preconceived ideas about how we're going to go this year, I said, if we build vulnerability-based trust within our player group, just watch out. So what I mean by vulnerability-based trust is that no matter what happens, we know that we've got each other's back, what's and all. And we did a 2-hour session around that where each of our player group, players within the player group expressed their vulnerabilities and insecurities. And it created just the energy in the room. I facilitated the process. Was fantastic. And I said to Pete Davey, I said, we get this vulnerability-based trust right. We'll then in turn get high quality conflict, really good quality conflict. We'll then get commitment. We'll then get accountability. We'll then get results. It's not the other way around.
It actually reminds me a little bit of The Test on Amazon. I've been watching that too, and it's been a fascinating documentary to see, the players' vulnerabilities when they're in the change rooms after a match, and seeing, the big leaders like the Ricky Pontings and the Adam Gilchrist to come around them to talk about some of those vulnerabilities the players might express. Just on a little bit of a lighter note, I've just got to give you a bit of an update on something and a little bit of banter here. So obviously we've got a bit more time on our hands at the moment. People aren't as busy with work. We're spending, in your case, probably spending a bit more time with the families and all that, maybe doing some cleaning chores. So I was in my room a few weeks ago and just going through some old antidote things from the room. And I had this big birthday card when I turned 21, and I was working at Channel 10 at the time. And, had the birthday party at home and, a bit of music and invited people around the garage. And I'm looking at all these notes in the birthday, happy birthday, Mark, happy birthday, Heen, and all that. And there's a bit of a common theme. There's a couple of them at the time that said, say hi to Christy Malthouse for me, will you? Can you do that? Because I knew that I was working at Channel 10 at the time in the sports department, and I thought it was really funny. I want to know what you've found in your archives in the last 10, 15 years that you may have stumbled over, that you might have thought, I didn't realise that.
No, archives. The only thing, sort of the thing that comes to my mind at the moment, there is a photo of Christy and myself in the Herald Sun when Zach was first, my eldest son was first born, and I'm wearing a horrible floral shirt, and I just didn't know what I was thinking. And that's sort of, that's like stamped in my mind to go, what were you thinking? Your first photo in the paper with your wife and your beautiful, newborn son. But yeah, that's Mark. That's something that sort of, that's initially popped up to me. Absolutely.
Yeah, I suppose we've all had a bit more time to do a bit of pottering and a bit of cleaning and, cleaning out some things that we haven't seen for a few years and just looking at some of our old memorabilia. But look, Dean, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the program. Mark Stone, what an absolute guest. I mean, to have Dean Casamento, what a great guy. And Dean, really thank you for your contributions as well.
Well, Mark, thank you for making the time to, I suppose I hope I've added as much value as I possibly could.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to our next conversation, to be honest.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. I'm actually looking forward to meeting you, Dean. So thanks very much. Thanks, Heen.
I think,
guys.
Mark Stone, before we go on, there's definitely a part 2 happening here with Dean Casamento about the player and maybe some of the things that we don't know, particularly with his business side as well.
Yeah, there'll be certainly a part 2 because I've got a lot of questions I could have asked him, but I'm going to save them for a rainy day, Heen.
Good stuff. Thanks, guys. We really appreciate your time. We've come to episode 2 on the Stone Heen View podcast, and it's great to have Dean Casamento on the program. And we really think that this program is going to grow some legs, and we're going to be talking to a number of different sports people, whether they be fitness trainers, sports coaches, the fans, the administrators. There's so many things. And there's so many perspectives of sports clubs out there, Mark Stone, and what a great time to release this podcast.
Bring it on, Heen, I say. Bring it on.
All right, thanks for joining us on the Stone Heen View. Welcome to podcast 2. We've put a wrap on that and signed off, and we're going to join you on podcast 3 very soon, and we hope you enjoyed out there. And just don't forget as well, you can log on to Facebook and type in the Stone Heen View if you want to listen to the podcast, and also we'll be putting out some audio releases as well very soon. So be big program. Stay tuned and look forward to some more podcasts.